The Pirates beat the Diamondbacks behind the brilliance of the best pitcher in baseball. And the Pirates' biggest single problem has been publicly acknowledged. That's next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Welcome to Locked On Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan. Today, we're diving into a weekend that gave Pirates fans a glimpse of what this team could be, and a front office that still seems unsure how to get there. First up, we'll break down the series win over Arizona, a dominant showing from Paul Skeens, electric moments from O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds, and a reminder of how good this core can be when it clicks. Then we'll shift to Ben Cherington's comments from his radio appearance this morning. The trade deadline is days away, and for the first time in years, the Pirates are openly talking about embracing risk. But here's the thing. This team hasn't just avoided risk, they've treated it like the enemy. And now, with 2026 as the new target, we'll talk about whether this front office is finally ready to act like a team that wants to win. Pittsburgh Pirates capped off a tightly contested weekend series against the Arizona Diamondbacks with a dominant performance, taking 2 of 3 games at PNC Park, really could have been a sweep, and showcasing the brilliance of their young ace, Paul Skeens. After dropping the opener 1-0 in 11 innings, the Pirates bounced back with back-to-back shutouts, winning 2-0 on Saturday and 6-0 on Sunday. The series finale was a masterclass from Skeens, who delivered 6 scoreless innings, struck out 9 while allowing just 3 hits and a walk. His poise and command were on full display as he worked out multiple jams and extended his streak of not allowing a first-inning run all season. That's 22 starts, by the way. With a league-leading 1.83 ERA and a career mark of 1.89 through his first 45 starts, Skeens continues to cement his status as one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball. And in this game in particular, he showed that he doesn't have to have his whole arsenal. I think he only ended up throwing 7 splinkers today. It was not his pitch of choice. They used the changeup instead. Must have been something Henry saw, because that's not been Paul Skeens' way to go. And he did shake Henry off a couple times today. I think there were a few instances he wanted to go to the splinker, and Henry talked him out of it for whatever reason. Can't argue. It worked. Another shutout performance, and really, Diamondbacks just, even if they got leadoff doubles off of him, he would just come back and strike out the next 2 guys. It was a different kind of dominance, man. It was a lot of fun to watch. He's so fun to watch in general. Offensively, the Pirates leaned on a dynamic contribution from O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds, both of whom were instrumental in this series win. Cruz, the league leader in stolen bases, ignited the offense with his speed and his aggressiveness in this one, scoring from first on a single in Saturday's win and adding 2 hits and 2 RBIs in Sunday's finale. His ability to change the game with both his bat and legs was a key factor in breaking through against Arizona's pitching. Reynolds, meanwhile, delivered clutch hits, including a run-scoring double and a heads-up base-running play that saw him score from first on a Cruz double. His consistency in the middle of the lineup would be a stabilizing force for Pittsburgh, and unfortunately, we've only seen it in fits and starts. This series win not only gave the Pirates a 4-2 season edge over the Diamondbacks, but it also highlighted the importance of their core players stepping up in high-leverage moments. Skeens anchored the rotation, and Cruz and Reynolds driving in the offense. It's as good as that weekend felt. It also raises the question, if this core is capable of this, What's the front office doing to support it? I mean, that's ultimately where we're going to get to in the next segment. But for this one, the importance of Oneil Cruz and Brian Reynolds just can't be understated when you talk about the offense. The pitching is really easy. You look at Paul Skeens, that's the easy button. He's the best pitcher in baseball. He's unbelievable. You don't have to coach him to do anything. He just does it himself. If he needs to change something with his training, he takes care of that too. There's just nothing that you can screw up with the guy because he's kind of a self-contained package. He just does the job. And that's a great player. Something you can build around on the pitching staff. I think that's really the reason for all the frustration here. Is not just that it's been 6 years, it's that you get a gift from God like Paul Skeens, and then you just need a little bit of offense. That's really been the hope that we pinned our hats on in the spring. Most of us knew that they didn't bring in enough offense, but I think most of us also kind of hung our hat on that rung where, okay, but there should be enough. There should be a little bit, right? We got Cruz, we got Reynolds. They'll do enough that we can, there's going to be this Gonzalez kid. He's going to do all right. This Horwitz kid will be fine. We thought, get enough offense, even if they're a little below average. Look at this pitching staff. It'll be great. That's not what we've gotten this year. And it's probably not fair to lump Oneil Cruz in with this. I mean, I do believe he's barreling towards a 30-30 season. The stolen bases has long since been over in that category. He's gotten that out of the way. 17 home runs now. Need 13 more in this final stretch of games. It feels possible, doesn't it? I mean, come on, it feels possible. It's hard to say that's a bad season. Brian Reynolds, on the other hand, very, very, very bad. Those two in particular, I'm not saying it's fair to put everything on an offense on two people, but those two players in particular, they have to be contributors. That's really the nicest way to put it. It's not about asking them to carry the load every night. It's about asking them to just be contributors. We've instead had them just both turn into ghosts for stretches of time. Brian Reynolds has spent a lot more time being a ghost than a hitter this year. It doesn't mean like that you can just easily sit them if they're struggling, because it isn't like you have a lot of answers waiting behind them. But it's going to become even more evident here that everything that should be stirring this drink of offense starts with those two. They're supposed to be the ones that mix this thing. They're supposed to be the ones that drive it, and they need to be. They need to be. We blame an awful lot on Ben Cherington. I cannot blame Ben Cherington for how Brian Reynolds has played this year. I wanted him signed. I'm sure some of you are lying and saying you didn't now, but most of you wanted him signed. He's signed. I don't think this is like a permanent step back and, oh my goodness, we have to start worrying about Brian Reynolds. Is he even a... I do think we have to start worrying about him as a fielder. And I think we have to start at least opening our minds to the fact that the players have a lot to do with where this thing has gone too. There were a few bets that Ben Cherington placed that I think I would have been comfortable pushing most of my chips in on too. Reynolds and Cruz were two of them. So was Paul Skeens. Jared Jones was one. But they lost Jared Jones. And you know what? They had so many chips to play on that pitching side that they made up for it. On the hitting side, they didn't have any way to make up for an underperforming Oneil Cruz or Brian Reynolds. Not deep enough to do that. You're not deep enough to get away with having a historically bad season. You like look out in LA, you don't hear the news about it all that often because they're still winning. But Freddie Freeman is having a hell of a season. Not a good season. Not a typical Freddie Freeman season. Does that mean he won't show up in the playoffs or they don't want him or anything? No. But they have plenty of other options to get that offense. That's something the Pirates don't have, something they need to build. All of this brings me to Ben Cherington's comments this morning. I want to go through them. I really feel like some of them warrant being read in totality, and I want to comment on them as we go. Ever wish managing your money was easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning to pick big purchases, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. My wife loves to ask me how much I spend on golf, and I always just spit back at her the greens fees. Well, with Monarch Money, I'm able to look in a little deeper. How much am I spending on the tees, the balls, the drinks afterwards, the cigars, the batteries for my rangefinder? You know, it's able to categorize it all and really show you what you're spending. Not that it's going to stop me. Golf is a disease, people. You know, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit me with a subscribe and a like, and we will keep it rocking here on Locked On Pirates for 6 years, at least, because really this is a nutting problem, not just a Cherington problem. The Pirates have operated like risk is something to be avoided at all costs. Trades have been safe. Free agents were placeholders. Prospects were protected like gold. But today, Cherington said something different. We can't be risk adverse. That's not going to work in Pittsburgh. That's a big shift, at least in tone. But is it real, or is it just another way to kick the can to 2026? Let's use some of Cherington's comments and kind of talk through them here a little bit. You know, I get so frustrated listening to some of the double talk. I'm going to try to cut out as much of it as I can because I get what he's doing, but like, we're going to try to make these as concise as possible. We have to deliver better, more to our fans, and really focusing on how do we build a team that is going to do better on the field between now and March 2026. Now, listen, everybody, we have heard these comments every single year, right? Every single year. And every single year they've talked about the next year getting better. It's always been about getting better. They've always said it. It's not as though it's something that I would want them to not have as a goal. It's just at some point when you say it repeatedly and then the record doesn't reflect that you're actually doing that, I can suspend belief here and there. Like, I can look at the overall pitching staff and I can realize that from 2023 to 2024, it got a lot better. And I can realize that it performed really well in 2025 from 2024. It's a good thing. The pitching's going in the right direction. I can see that, but the record's not. So I get really tired of hearing it. He said, certainly, he doesn't think that Thursday is the end of this effort. By any means. It's an opportunity that comes along and they'll be prepared for it. So basically what he's trying to prepare you for, if you're asking me to interpret a little bit, which I think we are, he's basically saying, if it doesn't happen at the trade deadline, don't panic, because, you know, it doesn't have to happen at the deadline. That's just the deadline for some trades. We can address stuff in the off season too. I think that's basically what he's saying. And the thing about that you guys are going to take away from it probably is you don't want him back next season. Well, I'm just saying that's where I think he's going with it, okay? He's at least preparing for that. On acquiring players with long-term control, he had some things to say too. I think it would really, to an extent, that we do have a decision to make the next few days if those types of things happen. We look at the individual decisions, look at what the return is. Our goal is to put the Pirates in a stronger position going into 2026. That's what he keeps going back to, right? There's lots of different things that need to happen for us to accomplish that. It's not going to be from a single decision. It's maybe that we can acquire whether it's this week or this off season. Okay, so he's basically doubling down on that. Doubling down on the fact that it could be at the trade deadline that they do things to get better, or it could be in the off season. I think in some ways, one of the things that I'm hearing at least is that's what the market is telling them. I don't think that what they're actually looking for is available out there at this deadline necessarily for any of the assets that they have for sale. I think they'd really like major league help pretty quickly. But throughout this press availability, or I guess it's his own show, so the in-house production, I think that was a repeated theme over and over again, that it could be getting pushed to the off season. I think part of that is he may be kind of suspecting that Bob's going to push things to the off season, or AKA maybe a different GM. But it could also be that they're just not seeing the type of returns that they hoped they would see out there. And I can't say I'm surprised. I think it's really hard to get major league talent in return. And I think you're seeing that a lot of teams are going with a little bit easier to pry away commodities first. You're seeing some major concerns get addressed from teams like the Yankees, who they've had struggles on the left side of their defense. It was the only thing I thought that made Ke'Bryan Hayes tradable. Really. Thought they were so desperate for defense, they might take a swing at that. But they took care of it with Ryan McMahon and Rosario. They don't need it anymore. So to me, he's kind of off the table. I don't see him getting moved. This is about types of players to acquire. He says, we also know in Pittsburgh, and in a lot of cases, we're going to be acquiring players who are not fully proven yet, who we believe can contribute, whether it's on the pitching side or the position player side in the near term, but aren't fully proven yet. This shouldn't surprise you. This is Nick York. This is Billy Cook. This is Simon. This is Spencer Horwitz. That's what this is. It's Isaac Mattson. You know, it's guys that it's the guy they just got from the Royals, whose name escapes me right this second. It's those types of players. More of the same is what that feels like to me, right? That doesn't feel like any different from the risk adverse. The risk adverse would have you push some more chips into the table a little bit, I would think. Meaning don't be so afraid. Pull the trigger on something that's a little bit strange. That feels very much to me like you want to do the same thing. I thought this was interesting. He got asked about if moving payroll is part of this decision. He says it's really not. The exercise is not to move payroll. The exercise is to get better. So in that, we just communicate that honestly, and that we say we're open-minded. Now, you're a deadline seller and you have a ton of rentals to sell. Realism tells me your payroll's going down. You're not getting major league contracts back for them. All he's doing really is laying track that he's okay with that, but it's not their main motivating factor, meaning they're not selling IKF to save $3 or $4 million. They're selling IKF to get a player back. That's what you should take from it, is his overall thought process on the trade deadline is that they want players back. Yeah, money will come off the books, but that's not our goal. Standard fare, right? Here's the big story on being risk adverse or not. I don't think we can be risk averse. I don't think that's going to work in Pittsburgh. We want to win. We're going to have to assume risk. With risk comes downside to that. Obviously, if that doesn't work out, we get criticized. That's okay. I don't think we can win without assuming that. Wow. I have been preaching that this team is absolutely deathly afraid of risk for years. On my other show, I've been writing about it, and I've done it on this show 5 or 6 times. I think it's the biggest problem with this team. Period. They are deathly afraid of risk. And I think that comes from Bob Nutting. He's afraid to extend out money and commit to things like that. They're afraid to invest in order to make more money. And then that goes down to your GM, who ultimately has to be risk averse too, because he's only got so much money. And if you make a mistake, or you have a performance like you got out of Reynolds this year, or somebody needs Tommy John, there's no more money coming to fix it. So you get afraid of risk too. Risk is that fastball down the middle. You either swing or you watch it go by. And for years, the Pirates have watched. Not just in the front office, but on the field too. I mean, we see it at the plate, don't we? Hesitation. Timid approach from this front office has begat a timid approach from hitters. For once, I hope, and honestly, I pray, this is more than just words. Because it's the first time I've ever heard them actually identify the real problem. The real problem is their fear of risk. They could make more money. This fan base would support them better if they did. Risk has been in the way of almost everything. They're afraid to extend somebody for too long because they don't want to hold on to any dead money. They're afraid to sign anybody for too long because what if it doesn't work out? They're afraid to trade prospects because what if they're good? And what if who I get isn't? It can't go on this way. That's the point. It's got to be more than lip service this time. I don't know if this GM's got the actual reins to be able to do it. But we're going to talk about the trade deadline because this week is the week to do it. There's still going to be deals made. It's time to talk about some of the ones I've heard about. Some of the rumors I think just need squashed. Today's episode is brought to you by Gameday Hue, and so is this hat I'm wearing. For the Pirates fans like me, who sometimes like to go out there and support my team colors, this one really hits the mark without the logo. Gameday Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on course, or anywhere in between. I love rocking it on the course because honestly, sometimes when I'm out there, I don't feel like answering Pirates questions or hearing Pirates comments, but I do want to rock the colors. So I like to do that. And it's not just hats. Check out cool split shade gloves made for the golf course or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. I mean, I don't have everything, but I'll take a couple more of these gloves. They're pretty sweet. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals. So now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com. Code MLB15. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Hey, before I get into what I do know or have heard about trades coming up or anything, I just want to say if any do pop up here throughout the week, I'm going to try my best to jump on and do at least a quick 20-minute show if something happens. If it's one of the rental type things, I may not, but the bigger names, if any of the bigger names go, I'll move heaven and earth to make sure that I get a show up about it, okay? And it won't count towards the normal week. We'll still do a daily show one way or another because even if I get one of those shows done, I'm going to want to do one after I've put a little more thought into it than my initial reaction show. So that's how we'll proceed, and we'll see how much activity we have this week. So, trade deadline rumors. I've heard a few more things, a few clarifications. Kind of solid rumor actually on Boston. There is a possibility that their outfield that they might be willing to move Garcia. Password Garcia is in AAA. That's a guy that I think could be part of a package. I think you're ultimately going to be looking to help them clear room though in the outfield at the major league level. So I think the first order of business would be to understand whether they really want to move on from Jared Duran or Abreu and what it would take. I think for the Pirates, the only thing they have that would even be considered is Mitch Keller. That's the only thing, that's the only matchup of what the Boston Red Sox need and the Pittsburgh Pirates have. They're not going to take somebody like a Bubba Chandler at this point, or even a Bailey Falter for something like that. They would want something a little more proven and ready to actually contribute to a playoff run for them this year. That's Mitch Keller. He's the only one there. I'm not saying they wouldn't be interested in David Bednar. It's another nice piece you have for sale potentially, but they have Aroldis Chapman. He's doing really well as their closer, and they don't really need it. Honestly, if I were them and I wanted a reliever from the Pirates, I would go for somebody like Dennis Santana, use him 6th through 8th, and I think that's a great guy for them. That's the best rumor I can do there. To me, this Mitch Keller deal, if it's going to happen at all, the more I hear about it, the more I hear about the posture of the Pirates, the more I hear about the offers from other teams, the more I think he's probably not going anywhere at this trade deadline. The Cubs are also said to be pretty serious about wanting Mitch Keller, and they've offered their top prospect. And I like him. He's a good hitter. I think he's going to be a really good hitter. I just wonder if that can possibly be the feature for a Mitch Keller trade. I don't think it can. I don't think it can. I think you have to get to the major league talent level. And I understand everything that Ben was just talking about with, not needing to necessarily identify what level the returns come from and whatnot. Okay, I just don't think you get away with trading Mitch Keller for a bulk of prospects. I don't think we'll be as patient as we were when you did it with Joe Musgrove. And that was when most mature baseball fans kind of thought, okay, we understand it because we've got a good 2 or 3, 4 years before we're good. We're not there anymore. We're to the point where you better make it good. And if you're going to subtract something like Mitch Keller, well, I better be getting a significant addition back. And if you're expecting me to hold my faith from the deadline all the way to the off season where you're going to fix whatever you did, I don't think you're going to be here to oversee that, my friend. I think the outcry would only grow. So I do not expect that at this deadline. I really don't. Philly. They're hitting the ball, but they need relief pitching. I think there's possibility they could land Santana, Bednar, Caleb Ferguson even. I think those 3 in particular are guys that Philly might have some interest in. I could see Philly having some interest in Carmen Mlodzinski. I know that sounds strange, but Carmen Mlodzinski answers a relief role right now. And Philly is kind of good at turning relievers into starters, or at least using them in an ambiguous role where it kind of works until they see what's going on. And Luzardo has really been struggling in their rotation. So that might be a good way for them to maybe feed two beasts, if you will, get a nice in between guy. Now, the Pirates would probably want more back for Carmen Mlodzinski than you could imagine, actually. You're not thinking of it the way I'm thinking of it. I think he's a real talent. And he's shown real good in the bullpen. There's been no shakiness at all. Now, turning him into a starter went a certain way, but that doesn't mean that it's without merit. Given more time, I think most teams would probably see the pedigree there and see the possibility. Let's not forget, he was a first-round pick as well. So Carmen Mlodzinski probably holds more value than many of us are thinking. That's just an off-the-wall thought there. The Blue Jays, I just don't see the package of prospects or major league talent they'd be willing to part with. Most of the major league talent I think they'd be willing to part with is unsignable for the Pirates next year, and I just don't see that happening. And I don't see the Blue Jays moving anything important from this major league roster that has them with the best record in baseball right now. Yankees, I already talked about a little bit, feel like they've kind of taken most of what they could have gotten from the Pirates off the table there in the infield. Now, if they're going to get anything from the Pirates, it's going to be pitching, and I would imagine it would be relief pitching. But you could see them maybe think about taking a swing at a younger guy, even like a Mike Burrows. I could see them being interested in Keller, and yes, I've seen they're interested in O'Neill Cruz, but O'Neill Cruz isn't happening. That's a fever dream for fan bases and sports writers around the world. That's not happening. Not this year. Most of the major rumors, though, I think there's just been a counterpoint to almost all of them. It feels like we're going to start out rather slow at the beginning of this week, and I think it'll ramp up as we get closer. If the Pirates are smart and they really do want to get out there and make some sales, they really should sell the rentals as soon as they possibly can. IKF lost a nice landing spot there, I think, with the Yankees. They were familiar with him. They really needed his skill set, and they went in another direction. So that either means they didn't check in on him at all, or Ben Cherington asked too much for a rental. You know, the other side of that coin is, do the Pirates just keep IKF? Do they think it's more valuable to have that? I don't. I think you should move on to kids. You know, I mean, at the very least, do that, because you're staring down the barrel. If you decide that you want to keep IKF and he's part of your plans going into 2026, you're going to offer him a contract now. You're talking about returning like 60% of a team that couldn't even get 500. Yeah, you want to account for some growth and everything, but there's also a little bit of that Einstein's theory of insanity. I don't think you want to do that either. You got to leave some room for change here, and this is a move that to me is a no-brainer. You make this move, you'll get something of worth if you're smart, even if it's just a really good reliever. That's okay. That's an okay outcome, but it's got to be as close to the majors as possible if you're trading anything that has term. The rumors just need to start sharpening up, and I think we'll see that start to happen by Tuesday. That's usually a good fun day right before the deadline, and I think we'll have some fun sometime around there. That's all I got for you today. Let's go Bucks.